Hello and welcome to Bloke on the Range. I'm very happy to say that I finally got the Tikka T3x Arctic back from warranty repair. Now, if you remember back to when I took it out on the range the first time, it was a little on the disappointing side, both grouping wise and, well, the sights. There was a lot of play in the elevation drum, not the lateral adjustment, it was the elevation drum. There was a commenter who accused me of not having tightened both the opposing screws properly, but I had. So I sent it back. My tame gunsmith tested it, said, well, grouping wise it was accurate enough with the scope, but there was definitely something squiffy with the sights. The front sight lost its clicks, the rear sight, as I said, had too much play in it. So I waited and I waited and I waited and I waited and rang them up after a month or so. Oh, sorry, we're waiting on a part from Finland. So I waited some more and got it back finally. Turns out that the part that they were waiting on from Finland was an entirely new set of sights. And this ties in nicely with what a few Canadians have been telling me via PMs and in comments under the earlier YouTube video, that the Rangers have requested certain improvements to the sights. And I must say that there are changes to the sights, and some of them are indeed improvements. Bit of full disclosure, first of all, this will not be the first time I've fired this rifle. I had Bismarck from the Military Aviation History channel here. I quickly zeroed it to me and then he fired some shots on it. So today is not the first time. But let's start at the front of the rifle. And because I'm working on my own here, I shall come all the way forward to the camera. The first improvement is that we now have a squared off rectangular post, which is a much more Lee Enfield type sight picture. Now, previously it was a circular post which didn't give quite as good definition, and it was actually slightly fat. I initially thought, oh, that's going to be great, and then I got behind it at 300 meters and it wasn't. It was too fat because this is a relatively short sight radius. So that's good. And I discovered when I was down here with it with Bismarck that in fact the clicks go all the way down now. It doesn't lose them anymore, so that is a bonus. The rear sight, there's a couple of changes. The build quality is improved. Before, you'd have to practically push it down to change it. Now it just changes with finger pressure. There's far less play. There is still a tiny little bit of play, but it's microscopic. You can just feel it. But what is slightly different is what they've done here. So if I can get the camera around to that. Now, instead of being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 600 meters, it's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, what they've done here is they've taken away my lovely ghost ring that they had on the 100 meter setting, replaced it with a 0 setting with the same aperture size as used to be on the 200 meter setting before, because previously it was a nice big ghost ring at 100, an intermediate size at 200, and smaller ones for 300 to 600, and then from 100 to 500 it's all the same small aperture at various elevations. Otherwise this has remained the same, but you should be able to hardly see that plate. So that's all mostly good. Now, I understand why people are fearful of large apertures, and the Rangers will have mostly been using these on the range. I appreciate it. I appreciate that those of us who have come to appreciate, I'm using that word a lot here, the big aperture are in a minority. It scares a lot of people. It's a psychological impact. I've demonstrated enough times that it really has no massive impact on grouping capability if you understand it. If you understand that you just have to concentrate. Because if you think you're not going to be able to shoot well with it because it's huge, you're not going to pay attention to actually centering the front sight. And then your shots will go à la super der Platz. It will be a self-fulfilling prophecy. So that's what's a slight shame. I kind of wish that they'd kept it on the 0 setting and then had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. Anyway, that is how it is. So we are going to take this out to 300 meters again and have a try. Ammunition-wise this time, we have got some blatting fodder. We've got some SalTech, new production, Swiss-made, 147 grains. So this is M80 ball. Now, I can't get any Sarco ammunition that's allowed on these targets and has a sensible bullet weight at the moment. So sorry about that. Asked around with respect to what I could get. People recommended this very highly, GGG 168 grain Match King. So this is going to be our accurate fodder. The 180 grain Noslers that the Canadian Rangers are issued, we are not allowed to shoot on these targets because it's a hunting bullet, hollow point, whatever. It's not allowed. The other thing I did in the meantime was put together a little toolkit in a handy Crown Royal pouch. So I have a torque wrench, and it turns out that they want actually an awful lot of torque. They want like 62 inch-pounds or something, like 7 Newton meters of torque. So I have one of these from Brownells, a box standard set of Allen keys, and then a couple of stubby little screwdrivers. This one for adjusting the windage, and this one that perfectly fits the screw. I don't know if I can get that in there. Yeah. It perfectly fits the screw without impinging on the front sight base. So this is a lot better than the overly large and overly small ones that they provide with the rifle, and being stubbies, they're much easier to handle. You're not sort of faffing around like miles away from it. So that was worth putting together, I think. And right, shall we take it out and poke some holes in some rubber? So I've got a precision target out there at 300. I'm shooting off a rest. Let's start with some SalTech blatting fodder. Well, that is actually, for ammo that costs 55 Swiss cents a bang, that is excellent, because that is a group that is about 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. Well, if you take off the one flyer, that's going to be about a 20 centimeter group there. That is already much better. So, if you could reset the box for me, please. Now that it's nicely warmed up, we shall try some GGG 168 grain Sierra Match King. Thank you very much. It'll also be interesting to see what the difference in point of impact is. I mean, that group was a little left. We're shooting for group, so I didn't adjust it, but we'll see what the heavier bullets do. Ooh. Well, barrel's getting a bit warm. I'm getting a bit of heat haze, but that's actually kind of similar. I suspect that the limits of the short barrel and my eyes are, I'd say that's probably going to be about the same. If this cools off, I might try another 10, but I doubt I will get some time to do that, because I'm going to let it cool off a bit, and then I'm going to have some fun with it offhand. Okay, so I'm going to mad minute it on a B4 target at 300 Buddy is timing me, and every time I miss I owe him a beer, so this won't be as quick as our usual 25-metre ones. Okay.
Are you ready? Stand by. Go!
How many beers do I owe you?
I think at least 3.
Yeah.
You see these 3 on the bottom right?
1, 2, 3, 4. I think I owe you 4.
I'm gonna be drunk.
Oh well, that's cost me. Okay, so what I think was going wrong for me there was I'm not used to this rifle, and the angle on the bolt, I found that I was sort of working against it, and this bolt has to be pulled back quite straight, otherwise it tends to bind on the receiver. In fact, on the bottom is smoother, but I had a tendency to pull it up. I guess I should have to practice with it some before I actually do a proper mad minute at 25 metres with it at the next opportunity in Valais. It's cooled off a little bit now. What I think I'm going to do is put 5 rounds sling supported through it on a B4 target, and then maybe 5 rounds fully unsupported. This is not the right shirt for holding this sling up. There we go. Now, I did adjust the sights before doing the mad minute, but I think I'm going to adjust them back now. So we want to go left, so we come about 8 clicks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. No. Good enough. Get tired. Well, that's all right for unsupported. Shame about number 4 just being off the edge of the silhouette there, but modern ergonomics and a modern trigger go a long way. And it's a prone man sized target at 300 meters, so I think I'm pretty happy with this. So after all that fun, I'm back out here on my rock. Overall, I'm generally quite happy with this rifle, and certainly even prone unsupported, unless I screw up, keeping all the shots on that nasty figure target at 300 meters is more than possible. The improvements to the front sight, top, back sight. Okay, I've lost the ghost ring, but otherwise that's much better. I think in the previous video I may have been a little unfair to it and had too high expectations on what I and the rifle could achieve with iron sights over such a short sight radius. This is only a 20-inch barrel. certainly the difference between the match grade ammo and the standard SalTech was minimal. The point of impact was different due to the different bullet weights and velocities and so on, as is to be expected, but I'm pretty confident that I can take this out and shoot a civilian service rifle match in the UK with it, which I'm going to do in October if everything goes according to plan. Now, in terms of the rapid fire, I'm just going to have to practice with it because it needs the bolt to be pulled at quite a different angle than with a Lee Enfield. That's going to take some getting used to. I'm going to pick Rowan's brain on how best to do that. Now, another point that came out having now spent some more quality time with it on the range is why I generally like rear handguards. Not just to keep your fingers off a hot barrel, but you need to keep your fingers off a barrel full stop, because if you start touching it, pressing on it or anything, you're gonna affect its vibrations and shots are going to go where you don't want them to. Because this has a skinny sporter style forend, you've got less choice of where to hold it. You can't really wrap your hand around it properly, because then you're touching the barrel because it's so skinny. And in fact, again, if everything goes according to plan, I will have a project rifle. I will have a 308 Enfield that I'm going to probably put into a configuration similar to this, but with a handguard, and we'll see what the difference is there. So there you have it. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much to the patrons who paid for this really rather expensive rifle. Without you guys, I would not have been able to make this video. If you haven't become a patron already, please consider doing so, because it really helps us to keep producing the channel. We have been producing one a week since we went on Patreon, which is not always easy. Sometimes it is quite stressful, and yeah, it keeps us going, keeps us chugging along at that sort of rate. So see you again next time. Bye.